So, Bob, what's a Mancala?
Mancala is a board game that originated in Africa, and it's believed to be one of the oldest games in the world. The word Mancala comes from the Arabic word nakala, which means to move.
Wow. And Ostia was a port in ancient Rome.
They say you can't learn things from playing board games.
Hey guys, I'm Mike.
I'm Bob.
And this is the Board Game Rundown, and today we are reviewing Ostia. This is designed by Tatsuka Chow, published by Uchiba and Skellig Games. This is a sea adventure pirate-themed game that takes 100 to 120 minutes, supports 1 to 4 players.
The expansion adds the pirates.
The expansion had the pirates, and we are going to review it with the pirates. This originally came out in 2022, but they did a reprint in 2024 and had the pirates expansion. Bob backed this on Kickstarter. We just played a 2-player game. We're going to show you how this works, and we're going to give you our thoughts and score it. Bob, how's Ostia work?
So it's a Mancala game where you're going to be picking up your ships in one of the sections, and then you're going to gain resources according to whatever section you pick them up in. Once you've gained those resources, so for example, if I went here, I would gain 3 resources and put one of those cubes there, and then I drop 1 ship down in each adjacent area. Once I place the last ship down, I'm then going to activate the action that is listed inside that zone. The action breakdown is pretty simple. You have a movement action, so if your last ship goes here, you get to do some movement depending on how many permits you want to spend. There's a little chart up here, so the first one is free, 2 is 2, 4 is 3, and so on. Like I said, it's listed on there. And then you can split those movements up between your ships and move them along the board. By taking the next one, which is the build action, that's going to allow you to spend the wood that you have to build these ships that you've got here. As you unlock more of the smaller ships, they're going to go onto your board itself. As you unlock the bigger ones, they will replace the small ships on your board, and they're going to count as 2 when it comes to making resources. But then also it's going to allow you to put those little ships out onto the main board and be able to send them off to sail to do trading and try to reach destinations on the board. The next one up is the order action, and that is going to allow you to trade in mostly wheat and then sometimes secondary resources to gain those cards. Those cards are going to give you these amphoras, which are worth going to be end game points, and then also a game time trigger. They also have these icons on there that are for a set collection. If you get the nobleman, the noble lady, and then the horse and the lion, I believe it is head. So a set of 4 is 12 points. So that is pretty significant. So you do want to make sure you get some of those. The next action up is the build action, where you can spend your well-polished stones, and they look like steel, but they're stone, to build these buildings. You can build buildings at any port that your ship has already been to or is currently at. By putting them on there, some of them will have lightning bolts for instantaneous effects, some of them will have crescent moons for endgame scoring, and then some of them will have the little trade icon, which you'll be able to take when you take the next action, which is the trade action. When you take that trade action, anywhere where you have one of those construction discs, you can then use that action up to a number of times that you're able to pay, or if it says like max 4 times, then you can do it 4 times, but if it doesn't have a max, you can keep doing it as long as you have the resources to do it. The final space is a special space called the administration space. When you put your last piece there, what you're going to get to do is pick one of the 4 kind of basic actions, the move, build ships, order, or build buildings actions, not basically anything except the trade action. Pick any one of those. And then once you've done that, you're going to pick all the ships you have up there, and then you're going to get to basically spread them out again in your Mancala like activation. Kind of like combo that, so you can kind of get multiple actions in one turn, because then wherever you place your last one, you'll get to activate that section as well. With the pirate expansion, it does add this board here, which is going to give you your legionnaires and weapons, and you're going to be buying those legionnaires and weapons to help fight off these pirate ships that you have out on the board. Well, you repel them because they stay on the board because everybody else has to deal with them. When they come up, they don't come off the board at all. But as you repel the pirates, you'll get to gain treasure chests. Those chests are going to be worth end game points as long as you build some of your legionnaires. If you don't build any, well, 5 times 0 is still 0. And it's also going to trigger different events. Those events will have these disgrace cubes. And normally it'll pick a certain resource or a certain thing and say whoever has the most of these can redeem themselves by getting rid of one of these cubes, which these cubes are -7 points for each one you have on your board. So you do want to get rid of those. So you can get rid of those. Whoever has the least amount is going to be gaining an extra one back. You also have, you'll be gaining some of those disgrace cubes usually from your starting player cards that you get. You'll get some disgrace to begin with, so you'll be dealing with that from the beginning. Also, the Pirates expansion adds the Ostia city board up top there, which when you go to build your discs out here onto these trading posts, you're going to be unlocking these buildings. These buildings can then either go into your port here and kind of enhance those actions, or you can choose to put it out on that city board, pay the resource that's on there, and then get one of the little city tile things that are, I'll remember to pick that guy up. They're got all types of different endgame scorings, bonus aphoras, icons for your set collection, just random things like that. And so you can put those out there to claim those for points. And then they got an end game scoring system, kind of like Scythe has, where the more favoritism you have, the more points your stuff is going to be worth. Mm-hmm. So throughout the game, you're going to kind of gain these laurels and move up the track. And at the very end, you will then, depending on how high up you are, that's going to increase your multiplier. So you're going to want to move up that track during the game to make your multiplier bigger for all your other stuff you're earning points for.
Yep, like your amphora tokens, the number of buildings, and the number of ships that you've put out.
Yep.
Good brief overview there, Bob.
Thanks,
let's go ahead and go into our thoughts. I'll start since you did the teach here.
Sure.
So a lot of things I really like. I always like to start with aesthetics. I don't think the aesthetics are bad, but the muted colors are kind of turning me off. Like the box doesn't necessarily draw me in a whole lot. It doesn't give me a whole idea of what the game is or what it's about. Mm-hmm. It's a trading in the Mediterranean game. And I guess when you have that theme, you need to have an box. I'm kidding. It seems like all trading in the Mediterranean games have like meh box art.
Focus on gameplay.
At least my favorite ones do. The Concordia. I'm looking at you.
Looking at you, or trying not to though.
Yeah, very very muted colors. But player board's actually my favorite piece of art in the entire game. I like these sort of details on like these port buildings that are in here. But aesthetically, like nothing is taking me away from the game or like ruining my enjoyment. Mm-hmm. The components were really good. I like the dual layer player boards and these dual layered expansion boards as well. Mm-hmm. But the gameplay, I think, just knocks it out of the park here. So first of all, you're Mancala. Now, I'm a big Trajan player, and I think Trajan is a genius game that was way ahead of its time, and I've been waiting for another Mancala game that gave me the satisfaction that one does, and this does it. I like the way you're generating resources. So the number of ships that you take out of an area gives you the resources from that area, and each big ship counts as 2 of each. So I like how where you're putting these also determines how many resources you're going to get. You definitely get some fun combos when you go into that admin action, like placing in there, getting one of the 4 regular actions and then moving them again. Mm-hmm. I really found it fun trying to get that to combo. There's a really neat balance that you're doing here where yes, I want to be able to build cities. Well, I'm going to need stone to build cities. But if I don't have my ships out farther into the sea and I've explored these areas, I got nowhere to put my buildings. Yeah. I have to have already explored. And guess what? Eventually, you're going to need more ships to do that too. So there's a really, really clever balance here between getting enough movement to get your ships out where you can build, making sure that you've got logs to build the extra ships, and making sure you have stone to build the buildings when you get out here. And even the buildings themselves, I think, have some clever sort of push and pull. Many of them are really useful during the game where your trading action that you normally get out of the marketplace, you get to trigger every single spot that you have a building. So some of these are better than others. Like right here, this conversion of 2 gold for 3 logs is obviously better than the one that is
1 for 1.
1 for 1. And it's a max of 4. So being able to get, 12 logs on one turn is obviously far more beneficial, and the price is cheaper. And then these ones over here that allow you to move up the tracks and are giving you in-game points. That one that you finally got to, which I wanted from the very beginning of the game because I knew how powerful it was, which was spending 4 gold to move up this track. I just like the balance in the different buildings and how some are helping you during and then some are at the end of the game. But I could go on and on. I really enjoyed this game, and I think there is a really good balance in the actions and how one thing has to be done before you do something else. And just Mancala action selection I just love because you can plan so many turns in advance if you're willing to do the math. There were times I had 4 consecutive turns mapped out, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this, and then I'll get the stone, and then I'll move here, and then I'll put those buildings out, and then I'll move again. Just really, really enjoyed this. All right, Bob, I'm done gushing for now. What did you think of Ostia?
I mean, I liked it enough when we reviewed it that I went and paid money to kickstart it, right? So I thought it was really good. This is, like I said, this was the first Mancala game that I've played, and I really enjoyed what I was doing with my player board. I love the dual layer, like keeps everything like in place, especially like, these other little guys too, and then those over there. I think the Centurions and the chests are neat looking from the expansion. I really enjoyed those. The insert is... It tried really hard, and it's really close to being really good, but like the finger wells, like I'm just not small enough on the fingers
really
to be able to get them in there. Yeah, like pinky, I can get my pinky in there, but I can't get my thumb in there to squeeze them and pull them out. So it was a little tricky getting the pieces out of the because there's like a little spot for each one because it looks like some delicate bits. And you don't want to break them, right? So they've got separate spots for them, which is nice, but a little tricky to get out of the box. But I love the combination of working towards like the set collecting and then the end game points, and then being able to ramp up that laurel type track, right, to make the things that you get worth more points than, your opponent might have 2 more, but if mine are worth 4 more each, I'm going to come out ahead in that. Like I really enjoy those types of things. The asymmetry of everybody's dealt 2 of these tiles at the beginning of the game, and you choose one from each type. The more powerful ones give you more of a negative, hindrance with those disgrace tokens. That's really cool. Like these little pirate ships are neat, and then the way you have to handle them. Like you can just buy weapons like Mike did and keep spending them, or you can buy like the Legionnaires, which kind of are a weapon, but you get to hold on to them. It's almost like an engine building with your army, and you can just use your army to fight through and repel those pirates. But no, I think the muted colors are fine because the map, like when I just put the map out and he looked at it with nothing on it, he's just kind of like, that's pretty bland, pretty muted, and it is. But once you start putting all these tiles and the boats and the buildings and everything else on there, it's nice that it's not overly busy because sometimes there can be too much on the board. Like, oh, that looks super pretty, but then it's so busy that like you go to put it away and you can't tell if there's still something sitting on it because there's just so much other stuff on the board. But I really enjoyed the pieces that come with them. The colors are pretty good. I didn't have any trouble with that, so that's a good thing.
I thought the rule book was pretty good too.
Yeah, the rule book does a really good job of breaking everything down. And we learned it out of the book. Like I said, I played it earlier, but when we played it earlier, I learned it out of the book.
Was not a bad book teacher.
Not a bad book. Now it might be a little handy to have like some of this on a player aid card, maybe, or like a small reference if you're teaching people, just like so they can kind of keep an eye on it, or you can just kind of hand them the book, say here's a breakdown of the icon. But the iconography is pretty strong and it makes sense.
Yeah,
so,
I was thinking at first that maybe we'd need player aids, but after a couple turns, I'm like, not at all.
Yeah,
the
icon didn't really need it.
The icon's really the action resolution is pretty straightforward.
Yeah. All in all, I'm extremely happy with this, and the fact that we did a learning game in 90 minutes.
Yeah.
I feel like as long as you don't have too much AP, people trying to plan their turns out on their turn, right? Like, hey, we'll do this, and you spend there for 20 minutes on a turn. Other than that, like, there's not a ton of downtime, and I feel like it's we can really clip this game along with 4 of us and get it one done in under the 2 hour mark.
There's a bit to set up here, though. I mean, there's a lot of pieces you got to populate on the board. Probably a good 15 to maybe 20-minute setup.
Sure. 2 hours start to finish as far as setup and
yeah, that seems fair. I think in a 2-player game with experienced players, you could probably get this down to like 75, 80 minutes. Sure. I bet. Because turns really do go pretty quick. So, Okay, so that's our thoughts on the game. We're going to give it our rundown score now. Bob, how do we score games?
That's a great question, Mike. So here on the board game rundown, we will give it a score from 0 to 10. We do use 0.5s for a little bit of variance. We're going to take our score, we're going to average together, and that's what we'll have on BGG or anywhere you might wonder, what did the board game rundown give this game?
What's the Bob score for Ostia?
Man. I kind of want to give it the 9. Like, I was thinking 8.5 or a 9, but like, I want to play this again. Like, if it wasn't Super Bowl Sunday and we're about to be scooting out of here, like
hurry up.
I'd be down to play this again. Like, it's right on that cusp to where it's chunky, but it's not overly chunky to where it's like, okay, my brain hurts, I need to take a break or play something lighter.
Yeah.
I could definitely play it again. Now, unfortunately, we don't have time to play it again, but I could. And
It's
would.
fast enough. I definitely
especially
would.
with everything kind of out already.
Yes.
That little kind of soft reset. We can play it again. We get it done in an hour.
This is definitely one of those games that I would immediately turn around and play it again. Anything that's like under 90 minutes leaves you that option. I'm at a 9 as well.
Wow.
I really like this game. I like working this Mancala, which nobody else can mess with, and it's just me and this Mancala and figuring out how many turns in advance I can chain things together.
Right, and then this race across the board.
And racing across the board, and then, starting to figure out how to set, collect, and move up these tracks to maximize my score. I'd play it differently. I'm seeing quite a bit of replayability in this box. I just don't have any complaints about this game. I really enjoyed this a lot. So
I'm not a math wizard, but pretty sure that calculates out to a 9.
A 9
That's pretty
rundown
solid.
score.
Yeah.
It's really good, and it's it's like medium weight. It's not that hard to learn.
Yeah, and if you were a little worried about newer players, maybe leave this whole board, maybe leave the expansion out.
Leave the pirates out.
Yeah,
Yep.
I do like what it adds. Like, it's great. I would never play without it if I didn't have to. But if it was relatively newer players, you could get them into the base game, I think, without any problem.
Yeah, having to get those
Getting
weapons
them learning this
to deal with pirates makes thematic sense.
Yep.
And it gives you an additional way to score.
Yep.
And I also liked this as well. Instead of only being able to build buildings here, get these like icons that help you towards your in-game scoring. I thought was a great addition. I also would never play without the expansion. Like, what it adds is all I thought
all
useful, makes sense. It's thematic. Great game.
Yeah.
Awesome job to the guys that made Ostia. I'm sorry, I don't know if it's Ubijakoya or if it is Stella Games that published this in the United States, but regardless, this is amazing. You did an awesome job. Cannot wait to play this again. Highest of recommendations from the guys here at the Rundown. So for those that are still with us, please do us a favor. Hit that thumb. Subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate it. We do reviews like this all the time. So if you like this content, that's the way to make sure that you see more of it.
That's right.
We have a Discord. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. And we have a Patreon. So if you join us on any of that stuff, we appreciate that too.
If you join the Patreon, you can see we filmed this for Patreon Play, so you can watch us play and get a couple of rules wrong at the very beginning.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Oh, it's easy to retcon. It's fine.
Our more polished plays we do on our YouTube channel, but our learning games that are more in the book is on our Patreon.
Yep.
So, okay, that's going to wrap it up for our review of Ostia for the Board Game Rundown. I was Mike.
I'm a bad teacher.
See you next time.